Hey, everybody, it's Amber, and I am here today with my friend Matt Cromwell. Hey, Matt.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing well. For everyone who maybe doesn't know, which would be surprising, who you are, can you give a little introduction to who you are, Matt?
Absolutely. Hey, everyone, I'm Matt Cromwell. I am Director of Customer Experience at StellarWP.com and co founder of GiveWP.com, and also a co founder and co host of a fun little podcast that Amber helps me out on a ton called WP Product Talk. So when Amber just kicked it off, I almost said, "And I'm Matt," just like we always do. But I had to hold
I
it.
know we have like a normal spiel that we do at the beginning,
Yeah.
which I don't have for this. This is my casual. I'm trying to figure out what live streaming accessibility remediation looks like. But
Yeah.
I'm really excited that you joined me and that you and our co-host Katie and Zach were game for me doing some accessibility remediation on the WP Product Talk website. So for anyone who missed last time, that was my sort of like intro, and you can catch that on the Equalize Digital YouTube channel. If you are watching and you want to give this video a thumbs up or write a comment, Matt and I can see the comments, and we will respond to them. And of course, the thumbs up and the like really helps us out with that. But the quick background on this is that I wanted to do some work on the WP Product Talk website, and I thought it would be fun to stream it, sort of like a build in public sort of idea. And I can flip over. So we're looking at it. This is the homepage of the website, which is, of course, built with WordPress. But there were a few things when I first started last week, like I was diving in, looking at the accessibility checker reports and sort of trying to get the lay of the land of the theme, because you built this website, like most of it. I think you did all this work, which was amazing. And one thing I noticed when I was going in here, let's see, because I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I make changes and all that stuff? And I noticed that there wasn't a child theme on the website. It's just built with Cadence. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would love to hear more about that, because I've always come from this, either you have a custom theme or you have a theme and a child theme.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me like how this works?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a couple things there. The Cadence in general really doesn't really need a child theme all that much, because so much of the customization of what it does happens kind of independently from the theme itself. A lot of folks can just customize it straight away
Like in the
and start
customizer?
running. Yeah,
Oh,
Cadence currently still leverages the customizer in serious ways. We're moving towards a reality where we support full site editing as well, but also, like, truthfully, with full site editing, you're not going to be doing child themes anymore either. Full site editing really is made in a way to support people making changes they need to make, and then any updates that get shipped don't get overwritten at all. So it's kind of like child themes. The one use case that child themes are still really useful for is if there's a plugin that has a template of some sort, and they build in some logic to have the theme override it. That's
like
still
WooCommerce
actually a
does
great,
that.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great use case for child themes still, because and that if you do a custom template in under for something like that, it would get overwritten by the theme once the theme gets an update. So that is the one good way. But a lot of plugins are starting to leverage a lot more hooks, actions, and filters instead of the template method as well. Templates can be kind of fragile sometimes. You can, do not close out your HTML correctly or things like that, and it breaks your whole page. It can get a little bit fragile, but yeah, one thing that Cadence also uses is called Cadence Elements, and that's what we use
Mhm.
on WP Product Talk a lot. It's a little
So
bit. It
tell me
reminds
what
me.
that is and where I can find it.
Yeah,
I'll pull it up.
yeah. It's if you go to Appearance, it's in that
Okay.
same area there. There's a Cadence. Appearance, and then Cadence, and then Elements. Right there, right
Appearance.
in the middle,
Cadence blocks? No. Oh, there we go.
right there.
Cadence elements.
Yep.
Cool. All right.
Yep. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the old school Genesis idea, because what you do here is you can build out kind of like a section or a fixed content area, and then Cadence has a UI that allows you to hook into the template where you want this element to show up in. And kind of the way that Genesis used to work, where you had to do everything with actions and filters and whatnot. It's the same idea, but there's a whole UI for it instead. So we
So
use that
like
to yeah,
so
we use
so
that to
like
customize
episodes, right?
um, the
That was one I
episodes
saw.
on the episode header. This
Mm-hmm.
whole header right here, that is all
Mm-hmm.
an element.
Is that
Um,
this? Oh, single episode
um,
header.
yep, exactly. And if you
So if
click
I were to
edit,
hit edit, that's where I would actually edit that. It wouldn't be on the episode
yep,
post. And
yep,
that's
that's right.
because that episode post is coming from the podcast plugin, right? Seriously Simple
Yeah,
Podcasting. And
but
so this kind of goes above it.
it hooks into the header of that template. It basically swaps it out, takes out that one and puts this in there instead. And all this
Mhm.
information here is dynamic, so it's pulling the title from the post type, from the podcast episode post type, and all that kind of thing. So when you make changes to the post type, to the podcast episode, it of course is reflected here as well. So
Yeah, so
yeah,
that's title.
the
This is like
episode number, these are,
it's like
custom
meta,
meta.
post meta
Yep.
or something. Yeah.
Yep,
Air
exactly.
date.
Yep. And
Oh
the
yeah,
air
there you
date
go.
is a custom post type, because I publish these episodes usually before we go live, but I want to show the air date, not the date that I just happened to push publish. So air date
Mhm.
is a custom meta field, and they're all populated dynamically.
Yeah,
Yeah, with that
using
role.
this
Yep.
dynamic content. I had no idea this exists. This is so cool.
Yeah, for
So,
me, I found it to be one of the most powerful ways to customize a website. Again, without any child name or anything. So
is this a post type? Do you know how this is saved?
Elements is technically a post type. Yep. But the
So
way it's the way it's dynamically populated in there, it's only taking the content of the Gutenberg editor, not all the post meta and
other
all that
stuff,
kind of
yeah.
stuff.
So that's what this is. So I just
Yep.
flipped over to accessibility checker settings. And when we have pro, we can do all of the different post types. And I didn't know
Hmm.
what cadence element was, so I didn't check it off to test it.
Okay.
Now, technically, it's interesting because I don't know, like this checking this and checking the pages and posts might result in a lot of duplicates to a
But
degree, right? Because it would report the issue on the element if there was one, and also on the single for
I
something.
I don't know.
But
Is accessibility checker checking it from the edit screen or from the front end?
so it does check it from the front end. So that's a question. Does Cadence Element have a front end that it could scan? Like a
Yeah, like
preview?
whatever the when you go to the individual episode, everything you see there is all, it's basically like the template, and part of the template is this element right there. And so
Yeah.
when your plugin is scanning the front end, it's getting the markup from the Cadence element, just like the rest of the post as well. So
Hmm.
that should
Yeah.
cover it just fine. We don't need to do the individual Cadence elements. I guess maybe there's some insights we could glean from looking at the individual Cadence elements from the edit side, but most
So
likely
the
we'll get it
thought
all
I
from the front
have,
end.
so this would work. It would scan like the preview. So it wouldn't have content in it necessarily, right?
Yeah.
But um so it's interesting thinking about this, like would I turn this on or not if this were, well, it is my website. Right? I it would give you duplicate in reports, but it is sometimes handy to have, because if I turned it on, that would give us the meta box down here. So then if we were updating one of these templates and we accidentally added a problem, it would tell us right here that we added a
Yep.
problem,
Yep.
not later on when it scanned every post that had it. So it
Yep. I
might
like
be
that.
beneficial to turn that on. And honestly, then what I could do is go through, and if we're thinking like from a remediation standpoint, we like to fix global things first. I could go through these before I go through individual posts, right? Because that would catch, like, it would do the header as a global element or something like that. I don't know. Does that sound like a good approach to you, maybe?
Potentially. Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of doing it kind of as we're building out the element in the first place. At this stage, I feel like because it's all already out there and we have, whatever 75 episodes out there now, if it scraped the front end, we probably are getting those insights already. But then,
Already. Yeah.
then it's good to validate. It's like, okay, well, we need to fix this in the episode header. Then we could get that insight as we're fixing it in the header, in the
Yeah.
element.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you came on this live stream, because I would have been like, how do I fix this thing? And I would have had no idea. So this is really cool. I had no idea Cadence could do this. I like it.
Yeah.
What about if we need to put in JavaScript to fix something? Or like last time when we live stream, I actually went to the Cadence website and I grabbed a code snippet that changed our social media links not to open in a new tab. I put
Mhm.
that in where did I put that? There's like a code snippets tool somewhere, right?
In the plugins section, if anybody's paying close attention, I like highly customize our admin area. I try to
Mm-hmm.
make things more logical from where they're at, like from their functionality and things like that. But so these things aren't
Yeah, that's
typically,
cool. So you put
yeah,
snippets and ACF under plugins.
yeah, because that's what those are. They're like enhancing the area. Anyway, that's just me
Mm-hmm.
being weird. So. I,
Yeah.
this is me also like not wanting to build this site out locally first and then ship it and all that. This is me just wanting to like cowboy code it. When I first built the site out, I just put up a coming soon page and started building in browser. And but I do really like this snippets plugin because you like every single customization I'm making in here, I can just turn it off if it's a problem, with those little toggles. Turn it on, turn it off, and troubleshoot that way if there's any kind of issues that these come
Mm-hmm.
up with. So if we're adding custom JavaScript in any way, I would do it here because that's where I've done all this stuff. So
Okay. Yeah, this is the one I added last time, which it's handy because I was like, how do I do this? And there's just information on Cadence's support forum on how to do this. So I didn't even have to go figure that out, which was nice.
nice. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we don't need a child theme, which is kind of
Yeah.
cool. So do we need a staging site? How
We have a
like this is interesting, right? Because you're talking about cowboy coding. Anyone who's listening to the Accessibility Craft podcast know that I do a lot of cowboy coding. Not on our client websites anymore, in case any of our clients are watching. Like I don't do that stuff. My dev
Yeah.
team does that. But on my own website and occasionally on the Equalize Digital website, I do CSS right there in the customizer. I will put functions on my own website. I can log into my hosting panel and access a file manager, and I open functions.php right there.
Yep.
And I don't FTP it down. I don't, I don't know.
Yeah.
Pros and
It's
cons,
all
but
about risk and reward, it's like,
mhm.
you have to be a little bit choosy about like, is it worth, changing these things on the live site? Yes or no. In this case, I would love to say that, oh my gosh, the WP Product Talk website gets tens of thousands of views a day, and I don't want to risk all those viewers, but that's not the case. So this podcast might
if
be bringing us more views than we typically get right now. So yeah,
yeah. So yeah, I think for anyone watching, if you're trying to debate this, you just need to kind of think about that. Like, what is your
yeah,
audience? What's, is it a monetized site? If it's a monetized site, probably you do a lot of things on staging.
yeah,
WP Product
exactly.
Talk is kind of like a hobby website. So
And if something breaks, I know how to get it back up and running really quickly too.
yeah.
So it also is not the
Well,
end of
I
the world.
promise not to break anything. I won't go like into the word appearance themes and go, well, I couldn't do that anyway because there's not a child. I do know not to edit the functions file there because then you get locked out of your site. Fun fact, if you go look at my WordPress.org support forum posts and you go to the very first two I posted, that's what they were about.
Yeah, nice.
So, okay. let's talk about a few of the issues, because I think there's some things that people have different opinions on. And I know ahead of time you and I talked and I was like, what can I change? What can I not change without checking with you first? Because obviously this is your baby. Um, but I kind of thought, it might be interesting to talk about a few of the things that I've seen and sort of get your opinion on how to approach them. So the
Yep.
first one I want to talk about is links that open in a new window or tab. Um, so for anyone who's not familiar, the reason why this can be an accessibility problem, if someone does not know that it's going to open in a new window or tab, is that when something opens a new window or tab, your back button doesn't work. The way that you would return to the website is different. You'd have to actually go close the tab and then go back to the tab you were in, which may or may not be the one right next to where you were, depending on how your browser has stacked tabs. So the general best practice for someone who is blind is that we don't open them in a new window tab, or we provide a warning to people. And so I went ahead last time and I just added that cadence snippet and I said, we're not going to open our social media, but we have about 1,200 other links that open new tabs. And I'm
Oh,
curious
for
what
sure.
your opinion is on them, on that. Should we just
Yeah.
turn it off? Should we warn people? What do you think?
Yeah, I've always thought about it. I try to think about it case by case all the time, and sometimes I have my marketing hat on, and sometimes I have my like support guy hat on, or business owner hat on. It depends. Like from a marketing perspective, gosh, if I'm going to refer people off of site, I kind of don't want them to leave my site while I'm referring them off the site. Even like when it's like in the middle, they're reading in the middle of a article, and and not everybody knows that they can click on like shift click and it'll open in a new tab and keep them on. Not everybody knows those things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, generally speaking, I understand the principle, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to force a new tab on people. But there's also the case where I think about like um, all of our podcast episodes. There's two different players on every single page that
Let me see if I can
they can
find
be
one.
playing the video up at the top, or they could be playing the audio that's kind of in the content area. And if they're physically on that page and we're referring to a link that goes off site, then they stop listening to the podcast. And maybe
Oh.
they don't even intend for that to happen, and then they're like, oh crap, now I got to go back, I got to find my spot again, all that kind of thing. So I do try to think about it from the user's perspective as much as I can. And on a page like this, I feel like sometimes opening in a new tab is a favor to them. But
Mm-hmm.
but I know I've heard lots of folks who get really, really, really angry if you open a tab for them without like I've heard. I've never heard somebody be
Yeah,
really
even
angry if you
typically
don't
able
do it.
people.
Yeah,
There are
yeah,
some people that they're not blind, but they're just like, no, I want to be able to
yeah,
choose that. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's interesting because I hadn't thought about the fact that, you might not be like, you might be listening to this and then just like exploring. And some of these might have longer write ups on them, or you might want to be like, oh, wait, I want to tweet at Mark while I listen to him speak.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you might click that. And now I could keep listening and I could tweet a quote at him or something. Right.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah,
but if we weren't opening those in new tabs, you'd lose the episode.
yeah. And if they don't know how to open it in a new tab, they didn't know that that's like a thing.
A thing you could do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
we have a
So
very
I
techie
think,
audience, so
yeah. So maybe they would all know you could right click and open a new tab. But the
yeah.
the interesting thing about this, and I'll say like this is a topic that we have a lot of times with our customers, which is why we built our accessibility new window warnings plugin, which is oh wait, where was I here? Uh this plugin. Um is because
That's
a
just
lot
open in
of
a new tab.
people, it adds a warning, and that
Uh-huh.
does sufficiently meet what WCAG asks, because it doesn't say you can never do it. It just says you got to warn people if you're going to do it. And we ended up building this because the vast majority of our clients said, yeah, no, I still want to open them in new tabs. So, so what do you think? Are you cool with me putting this on the website?
For sure. I love the
What
warning that feels like get to have our cake and eat it too.
Yeah, so what that means, I'm trying to figure out. So these little guys then will end up with a little icon next to them. So depending on how, because it'll work for all
Oh.
links.
Mhm. I know what you
So
mean.
that's the one thing from a design perspective. So again, like this is a thing where I'm like, do we want to stage it first, look at it and see if we want to do
Mhm.
something? We do have the ability with CSS that we could hide the visual icon and then it would still have a screen reader warning. So
Mhm.
sometimes that's how people handle um, the social media links. But
Yeah.
technically,
I
you
don't
should have a visual warning too.
Yeah. I don't mind the little visual, indicator in the content area at all, but I think in that
Mhm.
sidebar thing, it would look pretty weird. So
Could
maybe
get
we
really
can be a little
cluttered.
bit yeah, we could be a little bit choosy about the specificity of the, sidebar, uh,
Yeah.
but
So, should we do it just for fun
yeah.
right
Yeah.
now? All right.
Yeah.
So, the way I would do this is let's install the plugin. It's always fun to do things live too, because then we
Uh,
can see how fast. So last time, I'll talk about this while I'm pulling up the plugin and installing it if I can type. When I was doing stuff live, I discovered that our accessibility checker didn't work, which is
mm,
always like, what? I swear it worked. The front end wasn't working. And then actually, it turned out that Gravity Forms was also not working on this website on the front end.
yep. Yep.
And you did a little troubleshooting, and it was a Cloudflare rocket loader.
Rocket loader. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I've, Zach Katz is also helping often with the website, and he's a really great sleuther as well. And he zeroed in on that pretty quickly, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." I don't want to talk a ton about the hosting, but the hosting that we're on is not expensive. So I was really trying to optimize the site as much as I could with a lot of different smart caching options. The performance team has so many great caching options now and different ways to increase the performance of the site. And then one day while I was doing all of that, I turned on Rocket Loader. The thing is, as a support guy, I cannot tell you how many times I have told somebody, "Oh, turn off Rocket Loader on Cloudflare and you'll be fine." And it's literally true so often. Rocket Loader probably is really great with a non-WordPress website, but with WordPress websites, I've never seen it actually be helpful. It just tends to just break stuff. I mean, it's not Rocket Loader's fault, really, but
Yeah. I will
it just
say I was live streaming and I was this is, you're live. So I was like, man, but Steve was in the comments and I was like, Steve, you're gonna come on this right now. And he's like, I cannot troubleshoot this. But he came on. And then actually William, who's also here, I see that. He and Steve figured out how to we released an update to Accessibility Checker that will now look and see if it's not getting loaded on the front end because of something like Rocket Loader, and then it will
Mhm.
load it later. Like it
Mhm.
force breaks that. But so it is. So that was just a short follow up for folks who were here last time. It is working now, and we figured out that there were other issues on the website, that it wasn't just our plugin.
Yeah.
um, but so I have installed and activated accessibility new window warnings, and we could just go back to this one that we're looking at, and I'm going to hit refresh. And what this plugin does is it looks for, well, we'll see. Does it? Wait, did I activate it? Yes.
You have that filter for Cadence so that those oh, there it is. I thought they don't
There we
open in the
go.
new tab anymore.
Yeah, maybe it was just taking a second to load. So the cadence filter only did these down here,
Oh,
these
those,
guys.
okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't
which
that's
was
right. I
nice.
didn't, implement the sidebar ones with Cadence. That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So it would put it all on, so you can see download transcript opens a new
Yeah,
window. And so
I
what
like
it
that.
does is it adds the icon and the
Mhm,
hover effect for sighted people.
mhm.
And then it adds an ARIA label, download transcript opens new window. And it will take whatever the text is, or if you have an image, in the link, like it's just a linked image, it'll take the alternative text from the image and make that an ARIA label and an ad that opens a new window warning.
I like it.
So the question then is do we like, so you can see here, website opens new window. Ooh, you know what we might have to come back on later is I bet this says website and this says website. No, that says WordPress. But it's just occurring to me that these might not be unique for people. Yeah. So as opposed to like Katie's WordPress, Matt's WordPress. I'll look into that later.
Interesting.
Right? Because you just hear link WordPress, but you wouldn't know where, like which WordPress or which X account you're going to. So I kind of jumped ahead because I got distracted, which I do all the time when I'm looking at code. Are you okay with these icons or should we hide them? What do you think?
I'd totally prefer to hide them.
Okay. Can I do that in the customizer?
Yeah.
Or would you rather do that in the code snippets?
No, a lot of the custom CSS, most of the custom CSS is in the customizer. Yep.
All right. So I'm going to customize.
There's some good comments going on too.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm bad at doing that. Maybe you could share some if there's any. Well, I find this. Let's see. I'm not good at like talking and looking at the comments. I really have a hard time with that. All right. I'm going to put a comment right here. So I'm in the customizer in the additional CSS section. And I'm just going to say hide accessibility new window warnings icon in episode sidebar, I guess. Okay. So I'm going to inspect this. So the class, so I am inspecting it. I'm copying and pasting the class. But if I were to do it just like that, and then I'm just going to do display none. But the problem with this is it would do it everywhere. Yeah. So what do you think is the best way?
There should be a guest.
A container?
WPPT
or on the whole
guest.
column?
Yeah, WPPT guest is a good container. It's up a little bit higher. Yeah, that one right there. So you could do that one. And then I think the ones that are co-hosts, it also says WPPT co-host or something like that. Okay. So
I'm going to type it because apparently I can't. And then, you know what one of my least favorite WordPress updates was? It was the customizer no longer automatically updates your website page.
I haven't noticed that. It should. Especially the.
Oh, actually, it did right there, didn't it?
Yeah.
So this also has the same class.
Oh, okay.
So I think we're good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna publish it.
And everybody watching can like see these changes happen live, which is totally cool. Unless it's all super hyper cached. It might be hyper cached, and then it'll take a little while. And we're logged in, so we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. So, wait. Why did I? Oh, there we go. Okay. So we still have our icon on download transcript. We don't have it on the social, but it will warn you visually with a hover.
That's cool. I like it.
Cool. And the neat thing about this is
we just
got rid of we just fixed 1,200 problems. I like that.
That's awesome.
Okay. So that is a fun thing. I probably might take a perusal, but I'm not going to do this now. Later through the website to see if there's any other places where the icon has showed up in an odd spot. But I don't know if I need to do that live right now. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is So we can see we've got a warning about animated GIFs, and there are a few animations that happen on the homepage. So I wanted
I think
to
there's only one,
chat
right?
about
Is there a
them.
couple?
So
Oh yeah,
there
that. Yeah.
is a carousel that auto moves, like
Yeah.
for our guests and hosts, that just showcases people. And then there is a count that scrolls up numbers.
Yep.
And then in the footer of every page, we have this animated GIF.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things that come into play when there's motion on a website.
Yeah.
So the first one is there's a WCAG success criterion 2.2.2 called pause, stop, hide, which requires that any content that auto plays for more than 5 seconds has to have an ability for users to stop it. So this could be like an animated GIF. It could be like that carousel. It could be like the Twitter conversation I had with some folks about animated snowfall on WordPress.org.
Hmm.
uh, so I am curious. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing that comes into play is does it respect prefers reduced motion? And what that is, and I'm realizing now that I did not share my entire desktop, which is not especially smart of me, but there is a setting in your operating system settings. So let me see if I can grab a link to put in the YouTube chat real quick from Mozilla Developer Docs, because this tells you how, depending on what computer you're on, where you can turn on and have it not animate things. Let's see, where is this? Here we go. I'll put this link in there. So I want to turn this on real quick to, let's see, on my system to just check the website and see. So I'm going to turn on reduce motion. Then I'm just going to go back up and I'm going to refresh the page. And one thing I'm seeing right away is the carousel is stopping and it's not playing, which is awesome.
Nice.
So it looks like Cadence has taken that into mind and said, okay, we're just not going to do that. Oops. The numbers still animate.
But those
And of
are
course,
like a second of animation. So does that
yeah, it's
apply?
a very small animation. I The thing that's interesting about prefers reduced motion is it doesn't mean no motion, which
Yeah.
is why sometimes it's hard to interpret that. I don't actually think those are necessarily a problem because they're short. I think if you had
Mm,
set them to go for a really long time, or
mm,
maybe if they failed the like three like rapid flashing, like if they were going so fast that it like would fail other things about like having multiple flashes per
mhm,
second, then I think it would be more of a problem. Um, but no, I think those are probably okay. But then of course our animated GIF still plays because we don't have
mhm,
anything that's swapping that out. Um,
mhm.
so 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 tell me what your thought is initially about getting rid of motion. Like the
Yeah.
animated GIF is probably the biggest one. The other one, I haven't looked at that carousel yet. Like, had we add a pause button would be really cool because not everyone knows about this reduced motion setting, and so you pretty much still need a pause button. But
Yeah. Honestly, all of the things people say about carousels, also think is true. Like, I honestly think I did that carousel because I was just lazy. I was like, I want to have our guests showcased on the homepage in one way or another, and I was like, but there's too many to choose from,
mhm.
so I'll just make it a carousel. It looks terrible. I don't like the purple, like, you know, the
So
fact that
maybe we
that
actually remove the whole element.
yeah, I just want to kill it, and I need to think of a better static way to highlight our guests,
What
or
if
a
we had
very
a
reduced motion way.
Does Cadence have the ability when you're creating like a loop to just do random? Because what if we had a grid of
Mhm.
5 people, but it was
Mhm.
random every time you loaded the page? Then
The
it's
only
not like
thing,
giving
yeah,
preference to certain people.
the only thing with guests is they are a taxonomy, and I have really struggled to find any of the like query loop types of blocks that support custom taxonomies
And
particularly
custom
well.
taxonomy meta. Because I'm
Yeah,
assuming like
exactly.
the
And
image.
yeah, the image and the description, their name, like all that is custom taxonomy meta, basically. And it's been a little bit of a struggle. I think in the end, even this carousel, I think I just did it like
Oh, like you hard coded it
manually. It's not
or
dynamically
manually set
possible.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Craig says it right here. Carousels are the lazy way of doing things.
Yeah.
And more importantly, they aren't really seen. Users most often ignore them. I totally
Oh,
agree. And
sorry
I
that
did it
covered
lazy,
you.
and I always meant to come back to it. And now that you highlight it as a a small but important accessibility issue, I'd rather just kill it.
Mhm.
But I do want to come back and figure out a nice way to highlight all of our amazing guests. So um,
I wonder if we could get Chat GPT to help us build a little like short
yeah,
code that
for sure,
randomly display. I feel like that's the perfect task for Chat GPT,
totally,
honestly. Like
yeah.
I need a function that outputs a short code that randomly gets terms from this taxonomy and displays them in this way.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely have Chat GPT'd a few things on this website.
Maybe we could I know we've been looking for ideas for our blog. Maybe that would be a decent we could I'll work on that and we can put a post up that's like, here's how we displayed our guests from because is it a taxonomy in this seriously simple podcasting plugin?
It's
Oh, it's
not.
a custom
It's
taxonomy
a
you
custom
created?
taxonomy that I
Oh, okay.
added. Yeah. So the seriously simple what seriously simple
So,
podcasting,
yeah.
isn't it seriously simple? I forget what it is.
I don't
Ser-
know. I might have just said the wrong thing there. Hold on. What are we using?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Seriously
yeah.
simple.
Seriously
Yeah.
simple
I
podcasting. Yeah.
always get that. Yeah. It has a speakers taxonomy, and we don't call them speakers, so I kept that taxonomy, but I changed the name everywhere to be co-hosts. So but then
Okay.
I had to add the custom taxonomy of guests
For
in addition.
guests.
So yeah,
Mhm.
it's a good plugin. I like it a lot, but I have had to do a lot of enhancements and customizations to make it do the things that fit our podcast, um,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
it's highly extensible, so it works. But
Okay.
I'd say
Well,
for
I
today, we can just kill this section. That's what I would say, and I'll come back and
okay.
make some. I think the bigger
Well,
issue is the gift,
do you wanna remove it right now, or do you wanna wait and say we're gonna replace it with something?
because it respects the reduced motion. I'd say let's leave it, and I'll swap it out later.
Yeah, that was my thought. We'll leave it right now, but the game plan on this is we're gonna replace it with something else that's not a carousel at all. So,
Yeah,
um, and then I feel bad now that I know that this covers your face, but uh, Mark had asked, "How do you check for the reduced motion setting being active, presumably in JavaScript?" That is actually a CSS media query. So just like
Hmm.
you do for setting like color mode for dark or light or for doing like responsiveness, you do the same thing with media query. So the
Hmm.
link that I posted on YouTube in the chat on Mozilla Developer Docs is probably the best example of how to use that, and it tells you how to turn it on your computer so you can test it as well.
Mhm.
So let's talk about then this guy,
Yeah, yeah.
the animated
I re-
GIF.
I really like the GIF because it just shows like that we have fun on that show. You know what I mean? And that's
Hmm.
I looked a lot. I looked around a lot for just like a static image that just made the show look fun and exciting, and it just doesn't work. Like we're all talking. It's a talking head show. But here we're laughing and all together and talking, and it just makes the show look great. So I want it to have this motion one way or another. I think you mentioned that there's a way to allow the gifs to be played upon click. I th- I, I'm
Yeah.
a little torn about it because um, like
Well, I
this is
oh,
really
go
just
ahead.
a embellishment of the website. It's kind of like atmosphere in some ways, and I don't want folks to miss out on the fun. And if you just freeze this at one certain area, it'll be okay because we're all smiling pretty much the whole time. I don't know. I'm a little torn about this one. Um,
Yeah, I totally get you on why it does that. And I will say, like, anytime Michelle comes on a podcast, I'm pretty sure that everyone has fun. Like, some of
yeah,
my favorite clips of her are like her laughing with people
just
on
laughing,
purpose.
cry laughing. Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so and let's see. I so here's what I've got that I thought might be useful, but it's really old. So and I think actually Williams in the chat, so I can always put him on the spot here. I do think he's going to update this code and pull it as a fix into accessibility checker. But what this does, and we never released this on WordPress.org because it requires kind of a fair bit of manual work. Because basically what it does is you have to upload a JPEG image that has the exact same file name as your GIF. Like it's not automated. And I know we want to build an option that if you turn it on, it would generate like the static image for you. Um,
Mm,
Steve, my partner, actually did something like that for WordPress core on the plugins page because a bunch of people were putting animated GIFs on the plugins page and it wasn't respecting
mm,
prefers reduced motion and a bunch of stuff. Um,
mm, mm,
so, but I'm game to try this because for our purposes, for us, and it's one image, like creating that image with the right file name manually is not, I don't think,
mm,
a
mm,
huge lift. And basically, what it would do is it would still play automatically. So it wouldn't load the image by default, it would load the GIF by default. And
mhm.
then there'd be a pause button. And if you click the pause button, it
Ah,
would replace the GIF with the JPEG via JavaScript. And then if you hit play, it
mhm.
will replace it back with the. So are you
Yeah.
game for me trying that at some point? I'm not going to do it right now, but
We're going to download a plugin off of a random GitHub repo and install it on the site. It's all live. This is great. No
oh,
staging.
yeah,
Go for
no
it.
staging. I don't know if I
I'm
could do
old.
it
You're
right now.
like it's an old
But
repo. We don't even maintain it. Let's do it, Amber. Let's.
let's do it right now. Well, wait a minute. What else did we want to talk about?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. No,
No,
I want to talk
I would
about
love.
color contrast.
Yeah. I'll just say yes. I want to make sure to get that GIF working really well. So we'll work it out. So.
And now you've just triggered me, and I feel like we have to have a debate about how we pronounce this word. So, all right,
I don't I
cool.
have this preference for creators, the creator himself has spoken, so I have this preference. I follow him.
Peanut butter? Peanut butter. That's what I think of.
Mm.
It's
I
peanut butter. But
I think he was
uh,
British, so he had no concept of the
yeah.
peanut butter. So
So I think, it's interesting on the animated GIFs. I try really hard not to get people to use them, but I feel like in this scenario, I really understand and I think you're right. Like it makes sense to have this. And so coming up with the solution that still allows the animation but allows people to stop it is good. So
yeah,
cool.
Craig Howard Hayward has a good question though about this. We do need to move on, but he's saying, "Are you using any kind of description to let all users in on the fun?" I really try hard to do alt text really well, but I don't remember
Let's
it. What
look
do I
at it.
have here for alt text? There's
So I will say I discovered
there's
last
got
time that there are a few things that are missing alt, and this looks to be one of them. Oh, and actually this one probably is coming up. This is actually a bigger issue. So let's talk about this for a second. So I've inspected it, and what I'm seeing now is that it's linked. And I bet you
linked. I don't know why it's linked.
that there were a couple empty links that I found, and I bet you this is one of them. Yeah, there we go.
I don't know
Um,
why that would be linked though.
so it is linked to our YouTube
Oh, yes, to subscribe. It's
account.
like trying to use
Yeah.
that whole section as a ability for people to subscribe to the channel. Yeah.
Could we? So this is where it gets weird because normally you want to describe what's in an image so people are aware of
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
fun, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But in this instance, we wouldn't do that because it's linked. We would just say subscribe to WP Product Talk on YouTube because it's going to use that as the link text, in which case they'd miss out. So I'm almost like, does this need to be a link? Can just
No.
this be the link? And if you
No.
wanted it to stand out more, you could style that like a button or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
So can
Yeah.
I remove the link?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this in the
Um,
footer or the homepage? Where do I go edit this?
this is. I think this is a cadence element actually.
Okay.
So in there is. It can get a little bit weird sometimes, but or it's a footer of that we'll need to go to the customizer for.
Is there a good
Let's see.
way to tell
No,
by
it looks like
inspecting?
I think it's in the footer. You know what? Forgetting right now if that's on every single page. Can you just maybe click to like the
A
about
different
page real quick?
page?
Yeah, just any other
Uh,
page, and if it's everywhere,
oh, that didn't work.
then it's probably in the footer.
Blog. Let's see. No,
Okay, so
it's
then
not on the
it's
blog.
huh. It's probably just then
Is
maybe
it
just.
only on the homepage?
I don't think so. I know that I've seen it in other places.
Let's
Is
see.
it
Here's a
here?
post single. It's not on a post single.
Maybe it's only on the homepage.
I mean, I think it only actually flagged there. Otherwise, we'd see it a bunch in this view.
Hmm.
So maybe it's only
Yeah,
on the homepage.
yeah. Then that's probably
Let's
really
click
easy to
edit
fix.
on the homepage and see. Yep, there it is. All right, cool. I like when, oh, nope. Is this a cadence element?
There you go. Subscribe footer CTA. No, it's not an element. It's a
Oh, it's a reusable block.
yep.
This-
Because I did want to be able to do this more often, but
All right, I
uh,
always forget
if
how
you
to do
click on
this. Do I
edit
click on that?
original, no, you click on edit
Ed,
original.
edit
Yep.
original in the toolbar. Okay, cool.
Yep. And then
So
that
we're going to go to,
anywhere we did use it again, it'll be updated everywhere. That's the at least that's the hope and the idea.
so how do I remove the link? Oh,
Yep,
okay.
right
Click
there.
the link in the toolbar. Click the X. Link is
That's it.
gone. Now we'll
Yep.
add some alternative text, which is Matt, Katie, and oh wait, should I do last names? How do you approach this typically?
It's a
Maybe
good one.
guests have
I think
last names.
I could even imagine this one being very generic and being like hosts and a guest laughing and having fun on WP Product Talk or something like that. But is it important that it's Matt, Katie, and Michelle? Maybe. I don't know.
Hmm.
I mean, it does have our names on there actually. So
Yeah.
probably.
So normally, if we have text, we want to say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could clarify, right? Hosts, Matt, Katie, and
Guest Michelle for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Save.
Mark again has a good comment here about the GIF. He says, "Would it not be better as a video on loop, and then you'd have the controls for playback and whatnot?" And I honestly, I didn't want people like playing the video and like I didn't. It's
Like
kind
a
of that's a
5-second video. That,
yeah.
yeah, that
I'm
loops.
just like it's just there for atmosphere, and I didn't want it to be like a thing that you interact with so much. You know, I just want it to enhance the feeling. So I went with the GIF option. Plus, also honestly, just getting like a really like clean video that that has controls if you hover over it or something like that, but is like embedded really cleanly. Like it's actually hard to implement stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's
a
not
lot of
totally
the
doable,
core
but it
ones
just
have like a weird drop shadow on the bottom or just
yeah,
weird
yeah.
kind of things.
There's all
Yeah.
kind. I felt like I was going to end up spending way too much time just to get the video to look right on that page. So
I clicked
maybe
back
again, just I went the
thinking
lazy route.
there's something funky going on here, and I really hope that's not my plugin. I don't know what that's about. But I clicked back. This is me not being used to editing blocks. I thought it would take me back to the homepage editor, but it didn't. So I'm going to go back into the homepage editor. And I want to point something out for people who are maybe not aware. So we've edited that reusable block. And actually, maybe let's look at it on the front end real quick. Which I suppose when we make changes like that, for people to see them, we might need to clear the cache or something, right? But I'm logged in, so I'm assuming I'm going
Yeah,
to see the fix.
it looks good.
Yeah. So we've got alt text. We have no link. But what I wanted to point out for people, because sometimes this confuses people. So it's still showing, oh, there's a different empty link right there. Sometimes the link, depending upon how things have shown up. Okay, so it does look like it was fixed in the report. Depending on how the scanning is working, sometimes you need to just hit a save to get it to scan and go away. But it's
Mm-hmm.
already gone. So it looks like saving that block also
That's
triggered
awesome.
it to
That's
scan and
great.
go away from the report.
So
So
you're
we
showing
fixed
me
something
that
and it's cool.
our homepage still has that old terrible branding, and I need to fix that.
Yeah.
Gosh, the featured
So
image.
let's talk about branding actually. That's a
Yeah.
good segue because the last thing I wanted to talk about with you today was color contrast, because there
Mm-hmm.
are still some color contrast errors on different things. These are kind of hard to see in the code, so I like to use the view on front end link, and that'll take
Mm-hmm.
me to the front and it should highlight the element. So for example, like this gray text on white, there's
Mm-hmm.
a few of those. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I actually went through yesterday, and there was a website that did this, and the company closed over the summer and their website is down, and I'm so sad. And I messaged Steve and I was like, can we put this on something like this on our website? But I found a Figma tool that allows you to create a contrast grid.
Mm.
So I went into Cadence where all the colors are set, and I pulled those. Plus, I grabbed this purple, which is on the home page, and
Mm-hmm.
I set up this grid, which I'll zoom in a little bit because when you're super zoomed out. But basically, what it does, and I should see if I can find the link for this Figma plugin because it's a free Figma plugin, which is super
That's super cool. It's
helpful.
showing you all the pairings, basically, of all the colors.
Yeah, so all you have to do is I could probably real quick, let's see. So when you put the plugin on, and let me get that actually and paste that if anyone wants to check it out, because I love little handy tools. So I think if you're designing websites for clients, you should definitely use this. But basically
Yeah.
you add this to a project, and then you go to the Figma file plugins, and then all you'd have to do is put in your background colors. You can add text or labels to them if you want, and then you hit create, and then it will create this grid where it shows you what color combinations are okay. So
Yeah.
AA18 means it works for large text, but not smaller
Mm-hmm.
text.
Mm-hmm.
D and P does not pass, so that's not good enough. So obviously we wouldn't
Yeah.
use this like purple on the other purple.
Yep.
And then AAA is obviously the best, and AA is good. I tend to not even like to use the AA18s because while it may work on desktop, sometimes on phone, your font size reduces enough that then it starts to fail.
Mm-hmm.
So a, a couple of questions here. Maybe a broader one is like, what's a good way for us to save this or document this for ourselves, so when
It's a good
we're building out the website, we use the right color combinations?
It's a good one. One thing I did as soon as you all very generously agreed to help co-host and everything, I was like, now I have more people that are going to be working on this website, maybe potentially. And I started thinking about how to build in some tips and internal documentation for the website stuff. And so I actually have like a little custom widget on the dashboard for things like that.
Okay, let's
And
see.
it's not the ideal space for like embedding a huge grid like that, but maybe we can provide a link to a Google
Hmm.
Drive
Or to the
file.
Figma file?
Yeah. So yeah, WPPT co-host tutorials, that widget that's down at the bottom there. Um, it just has that one
Cool.
video right now, but I was planning to put more stuff in there.
How are you
Um,
building these? Are you coding them out or you have a plugin?
this one, I believe, is one of the custom snippets. I believe.
All right. So
I
if I
tried a
dig through there,
couple
I might be
different.
able to add to it.
Yeah, I tried a couple different plugins that tried to do these things, and they were all really janky, and it just didn't work. So then I chat GPT'd it up. So,
Yeah.
um, but
I
yeah, I
I
think
love this.
having
Like this is the
yeah.
perfect place to document, accessibility or content editing best practices or things like that when you have a big team. So I
Hmm.
like the idea of I could put a link to that Figma file with the contrast grid and some maybe I can
Exactly.
even make another one of these, which is like accessibility, like best practices that are unique to us, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's
The
cool.
only thing I don't like about the dashboard is that we have no control over like when you log in, that tutorial
Yeah,
thing is
but
way shoved at the bottom.
when
You
you
can move it
log
up.
in, is it over here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you move it, now it's moved for you for forever. But we can't like make it sticky or force it to the top for all users and stuff like that. I wish that was more of a thing.
I do
Um,
appreciate that you hit a bunch of stuff that we don't need from
yeah.
like every plugin ever.
Yeah. I do
But I
that.
kind of feel like we should put the accessibility checker report back
I think
because
that
it like
default.
alerts people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay. So a quick question I had, and we're pretty much at time, but on this color contrast, um, I was wondering, let's see, are we here? So this gray right here is, I'm pretty sure it's using one of the variables in Cadence. Let's see. That's my thing. Let's see, where's the text? I might have to close accessibility checker to see the right here. Let me close this. And then I can make sure we're getting yeah, this one. This gray.
Yeah. Yeah.
And since you know the website, I'm wondering, is it possible instead of having
Mm.
to go through and change these to use a different color, can we just change that gray to a darker color? Or do
Yeah.
you
That one's
know if this is being used somewhere and that'd be a problem?
the gray is definitely not part of like the core color palette. So I think we can do whatever we want with it for sure. But I actually, um, there is the colors settings in Cadence, but there's a plug like
Mhm.
all of those that say global palette 1, global palette 2. Those are all
Yeah.
actually provided by a plugin that I use all the time, which I also highly recommend folks,
Okay.
called Central Color Palette. And I forget where those
Mm,
settings are at.
settings?
Yeah, maybe. Yep, there
Central
it is.
color
Central
palette,
Color
this
Palette.
one?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we can just change it right here, and then it's changed everywhere.
I don't see it here though.
That's isn't that it? The bottom one?
No, that's E6, E6. I think it's a darker. Hold on, let's look. I think it's
Then
maybe
that one
maybe it
might be.
is coming from the Cadence color palette. That's what I thought it was coming from, but I could be wrong.
Does it say what
It's
number is that?
7180.
Huh. Maybe that is Cadence then. I thought all the global palette ones were the Central Color Palette one.
It's going to be this one. Subtle text. So can I make subtle text not so subtle?
Less subtle. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do real quick here, though, because I mean, I could obviously just drag it, but I don't know if we want to actually adjust it. So I like doing the contrast checker. Web aims is kind of handy. So we can just put that in and then go like this and get ourselves. You still want it to be lighter than the regular text, so we just go for AA, or do you want to go for AAA?
Well, what does AAA look like?
Let's see. Right there. Do you want to try that
That
first?
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay. And
Oh, nice. No, I think that looks great.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to publish that. Now, I probably have to run another full site scanning accessibility checker. So I'll do
Mhm.
that offline. But I think we have actually probably fixed a bunch of problems just in that
Yeah,
one
I mean,
go.
in the
Um,
first, like, 25 minutes, we solved 1,200 problems with, like, 3 clicks.
I know, right? So I'm gonna see real quick here if I save that. But I really, really appreciate you hopping on and looking at stuff with me. Also, I learned a bunch about cadence uh, and the elements thing, which is really cool. I did not know that was a thing, and I probably would have spent a lot of time trying to figure out why that didn't work. So I'm
Ca
going to see real quick.
Cadence is really awesome,
But
folks. I can't I mean, of course, I am biased. It's part of my company now, but I have been using it, myself. It's on my personal website. I've built a couple of church websites with it. It's been so great to work with. So I highly recommend it. And Amber has a great article on your site about accessibility of different themes and page builders, and Cadence is pretty much right at the top. And when they got those results, they were like, "Oh, that's not good enough. We're not happy." And so they've been doing even more accessibility fixes since that article came out. So
yeah, I was thinking that I would try to ask Ben if he wanted to come on at some point, like if there's anything that we can't figure out, because of course he's going to be the expert and he might just be like, oh, well, this is just the setting you have to toggle, which I
mhm.
always love. So thank you again so much for being willing to come on with me. And thank you for everyone who tuned in while we did some live accessibility remediation. Thank you for your comments. Please like this video, share this video, and I will be back next week at the normal time, which is, I think, 11 a.m. Central Time. So thanks, everybody.